The night the sky burned blue, everyone in the settlement ran for shelter. Sirens screamed, and bright beams of light cut across the dome above. People shouted and grabbed whatever they could carry, running toward reinforced bunkers or hiding spaces. Everyone, that is, except a small human child named Aaron Vale. He stood alone in the dust fields outside the dome, clutching a cracked water cup with both hands. His eyes were wide, reflecting the strange blue light in the sky. He did not move toward safety. He did not cry or panic. His small feet were planted in the dry, cracked soil, and his gaze was fixed on something in front of him. It looked like a smooth gray stone, half buried in the dirt. It was not big, about the size of his head, and yet it seemed important. Aaron had found it a few days ago, and something about it had called to him. He had poured water on it yesterday and the day before, even when his cup was almost empty. Today, even as the world screamed around him, he wanted to make sure it had water. He kneeled carefully in the dirt. His little hands trembled, not from fear, but from excitement. He dipped the cup into a puddle that had formed from the cooling air, and he poured it slowly over the gray stone. The water ran down its sides and soaked into the soil below. Aaron whispered, "Grow strong, little seed. I will take care of you." His voice was soft, almost lost under the sound of alarms and explosions above. 4 hours, he stayed there. He did not run when the blue fire lit up the sky, nor when debris from the orbital strikes rained down in sparks and dust. He did not scream when the loud hum of alien ships filled the night. He only kept his eyes on the stone, checking it to see if anything had changed. Nothing had moved. Nothing had cracked. And yet, Aaron felt a strange warmth under his palms. A tiny pulse, almost like a heartbeat, came from the stone. Aaron gasped. He did not know why, but he knew it was alive. It was supposed to be a seed, right? Seeds grew with water and sunlight. They needed care. He had given it all that he could. Maybe it was just taking longer. Maybe tomorrow it would sprout. He smiled, even as the sky turned darker and the dust swirled around him. Above him, the settlement's alarms sounded again. They screamed warnings about alien scans and incoming strikes. Humans were running for their lives. The leaders of the colony shouted into their radios. "Evacuate immediately. Take shelter. Do not stay outside." Their voices were loud, sharp, full of panic. Aaron heard it all, but he did not move. He could not move. Not until he saw the stone safe, not until he made sure it was alive. The wind picked up. It pushed the dust into swirling clouds, scratching his face and eyes. The dome's lights flickered, and some of the metal panels above him rattled in the storm. Still, he sat there, pouring more water from his cup. His small arms ached, his back was sore, and the cold made him shiver. But he did not care. The stone mattered more than anything else in the world. Suddenly, something strange happened. A tiny crack appeared on the surface of the stone. Aaron's eyes widened. He leaned closer. The crack ran slowly, almost painfully, but it was real. The stone was opening, ever so slightly, as if breathing. Aaron's heart pounded. He reached out his fingers, trembling with both fear and wonder. "You're alive," he whispered. "I knew you were alive." The wind howled louder, and a distant explosion shook the ground. Dust and small rocks tumbled around him, but Aaron did not move. His small hand hovered over the stone, and then he touched it. The warmth was stronger now, almost like it was welcoming his fingers. He pressed gently, careful not to hurt it. A small vibration ran through his palm, and Aaron felt it all the way up his arm. In that moment, something changed. He could not see it, and he could not understand it. But the stone, no, not stone, was aware of him. It recognized his care, his patience, his hope. It had waited a long time, and in Aaron, it finally felt something that no one had given it in centuries. Something simple. Something human. 4 hours, Aaron stayed there, talking softly to the stone. He told it about his parents, who had disappeared when the colony ship crashed onto this dusty world. He told it about the lonely nights in the settlement, about the storms that made everyone hide inside. He told it about his dreams, about wanting to protect something, even if he was small and weak. The stone did not respond in words, but it pulsed warmth, and the cracks grew slowly, forming thin lines over its surface. Aaron felt a sense of hope, something he had not felt in a long time. He forgot about the sky, the alarms, the alien scans. He forgot about running, hiding, or survival. There was only the stone. Only the seed that he had chosen to care for. And now, it was waking. Far above, alien ships moved in formation. They scanned the settlement, measuring its defenses and weaknesses. They saw humans fleeing, saw the smoke rising from damaged domes, and calculated the colony's value, or lack of it. They did not notice the small child in the dust field, kneeling by a grey stone. They did not notice the beginning of something ancient stirring beneath his hands. The first crack spread wider. Tiny sparks of light, almost like fireflies, glowed inside the stone. Aaron leaned closer. He could feel heat now, gentle but strong. He did not understand it, but he smiled. "Grow, little seed. Grow strong," he whispered again. He brushed away dust, careful not to disturb it. His heart was pounding faster than it ever had. As the night deepened and the blue fire above filled the sky, Aaron stayed by the stone, a small human in a dangerous world. The alarms, the explosions, the alien scans, they were all distant. All that mattered was the small, warm, grey stone. Something waited inside it, something alive, something powerful, and Aaron's small hands and simple care were all it had. The first night ended with Aaron sitting beside the stone. His cup was empty. His body ached. His eyes were tired. But the warmth under his fingers never faded. The stone pulsed like a heart. And Aaron Vale, small human child, smiled. For the first time in a long time, hope was alive on this lonely colony world. As days passed, the stone grew warm. Aaron noticed it first. One morning, he knelt beside it and pressed his small hand against its surface. It felt softer than before, pulsing gently, like a heartbeat. Aaron smiled. "You're growing," he whispered, brushing dust off its surface. He felt proud. He did not know how a seed could make him feel so happy, but something inside told him it was alive. Something inside told him it mattered. The colony workers laughed when they saw him. "Why are you still wasting water on that rock?" one of them said. Another shook their head. "It's just a stone. Give up, kid. It won't grow." Aaron looked at them but said nothing. Their laughter rolled over him like wind. It did not matter. He knew what he felt. The stone, no, the seed, was alive. And it needed him. Dust storms came every afternoon. They swept across the flat, dry plains of the colony, carrying grit and sparks that scratched metal and skin alike. Aaron did not run when the storm arrived. Instead, he gathered broken sheets of metal, small boards, and even pieces of old panels from the abandoned sections of the settlement. He carefully built a tiny shelter around the stone. It was not perfect. It wobbled and creaked, and dust still found a way to reach it, but Aaron was proud. At least it was protected. At least he tried. Some workers noticed him and shook their heads. "That boy is crazy," they whispered to one another. "He talks to rocks now." Aaron ignored them. He sat beside the stone during the storms, holding his cracked cup of water, letting drops fall slowly on the warm surface. The stone pulsed under his fingers, and he imagined it drinking the water, just like a real seed. Night fell. The blue glow of the distant sky returned. Alarms howled across the colony, warning of orbital scans and possible attacks. Aaron stayed where he was. He looked up at the stars shining above the dome. They were bright and cold, but he felt calm. For the first time in days, he felt like he was not alone. Slowly, the cracks in the stone widened. Tiny lines ran across its surface, glowing faintly with warmth. Aaron noticed them first when he pressed his ear close, listening to the faint hum that seemed to come from inside. "I hear you," he whispered. "I know you're there." He laughed softly. "I think you're alive, really alive." He reached out and tapped the stone gently, careful not to hurt it. The vibration under his fingers was faint, but real. He spent hours talking to it. He told it stories about the colony, about the people who had left or gone missing, about the storms, and the dust, and the quiet nights when the stars seemed to whisper secrets. He told it about the small garden he had started inside his quarters, growing tiny sprouts of food for the settlement. "Even little things can grow," he said. "Even when no one believes in them." He did not know why he said these things, but he felt the stone listening, feeling something in response. One morning, Aaron arrived to find the cracks slightly wider. Warm air escaped in tiny puffs, like little sighs. He knelt down and pressed his face close. The stone was not like other seeds. It was bigger, older, and stronger. Yet it seemed gentle. He could not see what was inside, but he could feel it. Something moved. Something alive and patient waited there. Aaron smiled. "I'll take care of you," he whispered. "No one will hurt you." Over the next few days, Aaron's routine became the same. He fetched water, shielded the stone from dust, and whispered stories. He ran errands around the settlement, collecting scraps of metal or old boards to strengthen the shelter. People stared, sometimes shaking their heads, sometimes laughing. The boy in his rock, they said. But Aaron never cared. The stone, his seed, was more important than their words. One evening, he noticed something different. A thin, sharp glint reflected from the cracks in the stone. It was no longer just gray and smooth. Something inside shimmered, like scales or fire under the surface. Aaron's heart raced. He touched it lightly. The warmth was stronger now, almost like it was breathing. He leaned closer, listening to the faint hum that now sounded almost musical. "You're waking," he whispered. "I knew you were." He stayed by the stone all night, even as the blue light from the sky painted the dust in strange colors. The wind howled, but he held his hand over the stone, trying to shield it with his body. "Don't be afraid," he said. "I won't let anything hurt you." And the stone pulsed again, as if replying, a tiny wave of warmth that made him shiver. Days turned into weeks. Aaron became more confident in caring for the stone. He began moving it slightly, making sure sunlight reached it when the dome's lights failed. He watered it at precise times, tracking when it seemed happiest. He even sang to it, quiet songs he had learned from his mother before she disappeared. He did not know why he sang, but the stone seemed to respond, glowing faintly in rhythm with his voice. The colony remained tense. Aliens scanned the skies, and humans prepared for attacks, but Aaron paid little attention. He was a small child with a small task. Protecting the stone became his world. Every time the wind shook the shelter, he held it tighter. Every time the dust covered it, he brushed it away. Every time the settlement shook from distant explosions, he whispered to it, telling it was safe. Then, one morning, something remarkable happened. The stone moved. Not fully, but slightly, almost imperceptibly. Aaron gasped. He touched it gently. The warmth under his fingers surged, and he could feel a rhythm, a heartbeat strong and steady. "You're alive," he said softly. "You're really alive." For the first time, he understood, it was not a seed. Not a rock. It was something waiting, something ancient, something powerful. Something that had been waiting for him. Aaron leaned back and looked up at the stars. The sky was still blue and cold above the colony, the alarm still screamed, and the wind still carried dust. But Aaron did not care. For the first time in weeks, he felt hope. He felt a connection to something larger than himself. He smiled. "Grow," he whispered to the stone. "Grow strong, little one. I'll be here." And for the first time, the stone, no, the creature inside, stirred in a way that was more than warmth or pulse. It began to respond, faintly, subtly, as if acknowledging the small human who had cared for it when no one else would. Aaron Vale, small and fragile, had found something greater than the colony, greater than survival, greater than fear. He had found life waiting for him in the dust. The attack came at dawn. The sky was painted red and orange, and streaks of fire fell from the orbit like angry stars. The dome shield shook violently, groaning as they took the first blows. Metal cracked, sparks flew, and alarms screamed across the settlement. Windows shattered in homes. The people inside screamed and ran, trying to reach safety. Fires spread quickly across the dry landscape. Aaron woke to the sound of explosions. He could smell smoke and hot metal. The dome's lights flickered, then went out entirely in some sectors, leaving shadows dancing across the walls. He did not hesitate. He grabbed his water cup, not for water, but for courage, and ran straight toward the field. Not away from danger, but toward the stone, the seed that had become his life. The ground trembled under his small feet. Dust and rocks tumbled around him as the explosions shook the soil. Fire rained in small streaks around him, but Aaron kept running. His legs burned, his lungs hurt from the smoke, and his eyes stung from grit. Still, he ran. The world screamed around him, chaos all around, but his mind focused only on the stone. When he reached it, he saw it glowing faintly. Cracks ran across the surface, glowing like molten lines. The warmth that had once been gentle now pulsed strongly, like a warning. Aaron did not pause. He threw himself over it, covering it with his small body as another explosion rocked the ground nearby. Dirt and debris pelted him, and his clothes were torn by sharp stones, but he did not care. He pressed his hands against the surface, whispering, "I won't let them hurt you. I promise I'll keep you safe." Then it happened. The stone shivered violently under him. Small pieces of shell broke away, and a strange sound escaped from inside. It was not a seed anymore. Something alive was trying to get out. Something enormous, strong, and dangerous. Aaron pressed closer, instinctively protecting it with his own body. The heat that escaped was not painful, it was alive, like fire wrapped in warmth. The settlement was in chaos. People screamed and ran in all directions. Soldiers shouted orders, trying to save what they could, but orbital strikes had damaged communication lines. Drones fell from the sky. Alien scanners painted the colony with red beams. Explosions hit buildings, sending up clouds of smoke that blocked the rising sun. The world seemed to shake as if the very sky were falling. Through it all, Aaron stayed on the ground, covering the stone with his tiny body. The cracks widened, glowing brighter. A hiss like steam escaped. Then came a sound he could not have imagined, a low, deep vibration, almost like a growl. His small hands pressed harder. "It's okay," he whispered. "I'm here. You're safe. I'll protect you." Suddenly, the stone split open. Not outward, but upward. A warm light spilled across the ground, followed by a shape that towered over Aaron. Scales shimmered in shades of black and bronze. Wings, folded at first, stretched slowly, brushing the dirt and sending rocks flying. The dragon's eyes opened, massive, golden, and intelligent. Its gaze landed on Aaron. For a moment, time seemed to freeze. The dragon's warmth was overwhelming. It pulsed with power and life, yet there was calmness beneath it. It did not roar at first. It only looked at the small human who had protected it, the fragile child who had cared when everyone else ignored it. Aaron's heart pounded, but he did not move. He reached out a trembling hand. The dragon lowered its head, careful, curious. Its breath was hot, smelling of fire and earth. Around them, destruction continued. Fires burned, smoke choked the air, and alien fire rained down. But the dragon seemed to block it. Energy pulsed from its body in waves, melting metal before it could reach Aaron. Sparks shot up like tiny stars, redirecting explosions harmlessly into the dirt. The dragon's first act of protection was simple: shield the child who had protected it. Aaron stayed on the ground, amazed and terrified. You're alive," he whispered. The dragon's eye blinked slowly, almost in understanding. It tilted its head, wings stretching wider, catching the early morning light. Its tail coiled around the cracked earth like a living wall. The blue fire in the sky seemed to dim near it, as if the dragon's presence pushed back the chaos. The child realized something incredible. This was no seed. No ordinary creature. This was a dragon, a being older than anything the humans had ever known. It had waited for something. For someone. And somehow, it had chosen him. Aaron felt both fear and pride. He was small, weak, and fragile. Yet the dragon had recognized him as a protector. Alien ships above adjusted their weapons, scanning the area again. They were met with something they could not predict. The dragon did not attack blindly. It did not destroy the settlement. It simply blocked the danger. Beams of energy from the ships melted before reaching the ground. Explosions struck dirt instead of walls. Smoke billowed, but the child was untouched beneath the dragon's wing. Aaron could feel the dragon's heartbeat beneath his hands. It was immense, steady, powerful. He leaned close, whispering again. "I'll take care of you. I won't let them hurt you." And the dragon pulsed warmth in response, a living acknowledgement. The child understood then, they were connected. Not by power, not by command, but by trust. As the sun rose higher, painting the ruins of the settlement in gold and red, Aaron stood slowly. The dragon lowered a massive claw, gentle enough for him to step onto. The air shimmered with heat, but he felt safe. Around them, fires burned, smoke rose, and alarms wailed. But above all, one small human had protected a great and ancient being, and the being had returned the favor. Aaron looked up at the dragon's wings stretching toward the sky. They were enormous, covering more ground than any building in the settlement. The child's small voice barely carried over the sounds of destruction. "You're safe now," he said. The dragon tilted its head, and for the first time, a sound came from it. A low, vibrating growl, almost like a purr, filled the air. It was not threatening. It was a promise. The world around them could crumble, the sky could fall, aliens could attack again, but the bond between Aaron Vale and the dragon was now real, unbreakable, and alive. A child had saved a dragon, and the dragon had awakened to protect him. The attack had begun at dawn. By morning's end, the settlement was scorched and shattered. Fires burned in the streets, but in the dust field, a small child and a dragon stood together. One was fragile, one was immense. But both had learned something new: care, courage, and trust could awaken powers even the galaxy had forgotten. The galaxy panicked. Messages and alerts flashed across every screen in the outer systems. Reports of the attack on the small colony spread quickly, but the focus shifted almost instantly. A dragon had appeared. A real dragon. Not a simulation, not a hologram, not a lost legend from history books. The creature was enormous, black and bronze, wings stretching wider than the tallest buildings on any planet. It had stopped the alien attack almost without trying, protecting the tiny settlement as though it were a mother guarding her child. News of the dragon reached the leaders of the galaxy's major empires. They gathered in high chambers aboard orbiting stations, their holographic displays showing images from every sensor they could point at the colony. Alien leaders demanded explanations. "How is this possible?" one of them shouted. "Dragons have been extinct for centuries." "Extinct? They are myths, stories to scare children." The replies came slowly, carefully, but they were all the same. Nothing could explain it. Nothing made sense. The creature had appeared without warning. It had stopped a fully armed strike without destroying the colony. It had not spoken. It had not attacked anyone intentionally. And most shocking of all, it seemed to follow a human child. A single human child named Aaron Vale. Valethrix, as the creature was later named, gave no explanation. It did not communicate with the alien fleets. It did not respond to their threats or signals. It only remained near the colony, coiled protectively around the small fields and shelters where Aaron had tended the stone that had become its egg. Its massive body shimmered in the sunlight, scales reflecting red, bronze, and black. Its wings spread in slow, deliberate movements, casting shadows over the land as if marking its territory. The aliens tried everything. Missiles, lasers, energy beams, they all failed. Each weapon melted harmlessly when the dragon focused on it. Its power was complete, precise, and terrifying. Inside the colony, humans were terrified at first, but they quickly realized something incredible. This was not a monster. This was a guardian. Villagers who had fled to bunkers peeked from windows, watching as Valethrix patrolled the fields, careful not to crush crops or buildings. Its eyes, enormous and golden, seemed intelligent, aware of everything. And most importantly, it never harmed the humans. It only protected them. Aaron watched from the dust field where he had first found the stone. He had grown a little taller, stronger, though still small compared to the dragon. He walked near Valethrix's massive claws, careful not to touch too roughly. The dragon lowered its head, allowing him to reach up and place a hand against its shining scales. Heat radiated, but it was comforting, not dangerous. "You're safe," Aaron whispered. "No one can hurt you now. And you protect us too." The dragon's head tilted slightly, as though acknowledging him. It let out a soft, low rumble that vibrated through the ground and through Aaron's chest. It was not a roar. It was a sound of trust. The child understood then that the dragon had chosen him, just as he had chosen to care for it. The galaxy's empires were not satisfied with simply watching. They sent envoys, diplomats, and soldiers. Ships hovered in orbit, scanning, measuring, calculating. They demanded negotiations. They demanded surrender. They demanded proof that the humans had not tamed the dragon as a weapon. Valethrix ignored them all. It did not move toward the ships, but it did not leave the colony. Its wings spread wide, casting a shadow that covered the settlement, a clear message: the dragon and its child were under no one's control. Not humans, not aliens, not anyone. It was a living wall between the colony and the galaxy. The alien leaders panicked further. They could not attack without risking annihilation. They could not retreat without losing face. Some suggested alliances, some suggested evacuation of the humans, but the dragon made all such plans irrelevant. It acted on its own instincts, guided only by the bond it had with Aaron Vale. Inside the settlement, humans slowly began to understand the dragon's nature. It was not there to conquer. It was not there to enslave. It was there because one small human had shown care, kindness, and courage. The child had watered what everyone else thought was a rock. The colony had not been protected by weapons or strategy. It had been protected by trust, and the dragon had responded in kind. Aaron spent his days walking near Valethrix, watching it move across the fields. It was careful, almost gentle with its surroundings. Broken walls and damaged panels were ignored, but crops, small animals, and humans were avoided. Its eyes followed him constantly, golden and steady. And when he knelt by the small plots of earth he had started, the dragon sometimes lowered its massive wing to shield him from wind or dust. Other children began to notice. They dared to approach, slowly, and Valethrix allowed it. Not all at once, but one by one. The dragon's presence taught them courage, but also respect. They learned that power could be gentle, that size could be protective, that even a being older than the stars could respond to care and kindness rather than fear and violence. Across the galaxy, the story spread. Scholars debated it. Historians argued that dragons had been extinct for eons. Military leaders fretted over what a single dragon could mean for power and control. But for ordinary people, the story was simple. A child had nurtured a creature thought impossible, and the creature had returned the care with strength beyond imagination. Veilthrix did not leave. It remained coiled across the fields, a massive guardian against any who would harm the humans. And Aaron Vale continued to care for it, watering the small plots nearby, whispering to the dragon, sharing stories of the colony, and teaching it what it meant to live among humans. For the first time, the galaxy had to reconsider humans. They were fragile, yes. Short-lived, yes. But they could awaken powers that even empires feared. They could inspire loyalty in creatures that had waited centuries to act. They could protect life with nothing more than simple care, and in return, life could protect them. Veilthrix's presence changed everything. Alien leaders no longer spoke of destroying the colony. They hesitated, uncertain of what a dragon could do next. Ships retreated slightly, careful not to provoke it. And the humans, led by Aaron, began to rebuild what was lost, knowing they were no longer alone. In the quiet moments, Aaron would sit beside the dragon, small hands resting on warm scales, and whisper stories. Veilthrix listened. It did not speak. It did not roar. But it pulsed heat and life in return, a silent promise. As long as the child cared, it would protect the humans. And in that bond, the galaxy learned something new. Strength could come from kindness, and power could follow the gentle hands of the smallest beings. Years later, the colony thrived. Green fields spread across land that had once been dry and lifeless. Trees grew taller than some of the settlement buildings, and rivers, small but steady, ran through the valley where dust and rocks had once ruled. Crops flourished, and humans walked freely without fear, carrying water buckets, tools, and seeds. The colony had become a home again. Veilthrix, the dragon, slept high above. Not in stone, not buried, but in the open sky. Its massive wings were folded, its head resting on its claws, and its golden eyes half-closed as it watched the land below. From above, it looked like part of the clouds, a shadow moving slowly with the wind. It had grown with time, but so had its bond with humans. It no longer needed constant attention, yet it always returned to watch over them. Its presence alone kept the galaxy cautious. Any who considered attacking would see the dragon in the sky and think twice. Aaron Vale had grown too. No longer the small child who had discovered the stone, he was now tall and strong, though his heart remained gentle. He walked through the fields, checking on crops and children, learning to plant and care for them. He had taught them to be patient, to observe, to care for the smallest life as if it were the most important. He often paused in the middle of the fields and looked up at the sky, watching Veilthrix. The dragon was his friend, protector, and teacher in ways he could never explain. The colony had changed. Humans no longer feared the unknown as they once had. They had learned from Veilthrix as much as he had learned from them. Discipline, respect, and patience were part of daily life. The people knew the dragon could destroy them in a second, yet it did not. They had learned that kindness and care could awaken loyalty even in beings that seemed impossible. And Veilthrix had learned that humans were different. They were fragile, yes, but their hearts were strong in ways strength alone could never achieve. Aaron often visited the same spot where he had first found the stone. He knelt on the soil, now rich and black, and dug gently, as if remembering old times. Children sometimes joined him, curious, learning the lessons he had learned. "This is where Veilthrix began," he would say softly. "A small act of care can awaken great things. Never forget that." The children listened, eyes wide, feeling the same awe and hope that Aaron had felt years ago. Above them, the dragon stretched its wings occasionally, letting the sunlight reflect off the bronze scales. Its movements were slow and deliberate, almost regal. Sometimes it swooped low, testing the wind, then rose again, watching, always watching. It had learned the rhythms of the colony, the hours of work and play, the patterns of humans moving through fields and homes. It had become part of their world, a silent guardian, a reminder that patience, care, and courage could change even the galaxy. Far beyond the colony, news of what had happened spread. The galaxy still remembered the child and the dragon. Scholars, diplomats, and soldiers debated the event for decades. They asked themselves, how could a single child awaken a dragon? How could humans, small and fragile, teach an ancient being to protect them rather than destroy? And the answer, simple yet profound, became clear over time. Humans were unpredictable, brave, and kind in ways no one else in the galaxy had ever experienced. Eren walked through the marketplace one morning, greeting workers, children, and elders alike. He stopped to help a child carry a bundle of seeds, smiled at the farmers repairing tools, and nodded to the teachers guiding small humans in reading and math. He was no longer the frightened child who had worried over a stone in the dust, but he had not forgotten. Everything he had learned, everything that had awakened Veilthrix, lived inside him still. Sometimes, at dusk, he would look to the horizon, where Veilthrix rested on a high cliff or circled in the clouds. "Are you proud of us?" he would whisper. The dragon did not speak, but it would lower its head, glinting eyes fixed on him, and a pulse of warmth would roll down from its body. It was enough. Eren knew the dragon was proud. He knew that the bond they had formed had changed more than just the colony, it had changed the understanding of humans across the galaxy. The dragon's presence also brought unity to the colony. Humans worked together, cared for each other, and respected life in ways they had never done before. They learned that fear could not teach, but care could. They learned that small acts, watering a seed, helping a neighbor, protecting a fragile creature, could awaken great forces. And they also learned that even the largest, strongest beings could be influenced by something as simple as trust. Veilthrix sometimes roamed beyond the colony's borders, testing the wind and sky. Scouts of the galaxy saw it, and they retreated without confrontation. They had learned what the humans had learned years ago: the dragon's loyalty was absolute to the small humans it had chosen to protect. And those humans, in turn, had proven themselves worthy of such protection. Strength did not always come from weapons or technology, it came from courage, care, and the ability to act when others would not. At night, the dragon often glided through the sky above the colony, its shadow moving across the fields like a gentle cloud. Humans would pause to look up, pointing and whispering in awe. Children would laugh and wave. The presence of the dragon became a symbol, not of fear, but of hope. It reminded every human that the world was bigger than themselves, and yet they could make a difference, no matter how small. Eren continued to teach the next generation, telling them stories of the early days. He told them of the first night, of the fire in the sky, and of how he had protected what everyone else thought was just a stone. He told them how care and courage had awakened Veilthrix. And the children listened, wide-eyed, understanding that sometimes the smallest acts could change the course of history. Years passed. Humans prospered. The colony became a shining example of life thriving against impossible odds. And above them, Veilthrix slept or glided silently through the sky, always watchful, always protective. A dragon had awakened not by force or conquest, but by the gentle care of a human child. And in return, the humans had learned something the galaxy would never forget: true power could rise from kindness, and even the smallest beings could awaken the greatest forces. The wind blew through the green fields. The river sparkled in the sunlight. Children played among the crops. And high above, the dragon rested, wings spread, eyes golden, heart loyal. A child had watered a stone long ago, thinking it a seed. Unaware, he had awakened a dragon. And together, they had changed the world.